The 9mm Luger. If there's one handgun cartridge that has defined the modern era, it's this one. Originally designed by Georg Luger in 1901, the 9mm was developed from his earlier 7.65 by 21mm Parabellum by widening the case to accept a larger 355-inch bullet. The German Navy adopted it in 1904, followed by the German Army in 1908, and from there it quickly spread around the world to become the standard sidearm cartridge for countless military and law enforcement agencies. A typical 124-grain load leaves the muzzle at around 1,050 feet per second, producing roughly 360 foot-pounds of energy. SARMI rates the cartridge at a maximum pressure of 35,000 psi, while Plus P loads increase that limit to 38,500 psi for additional performance. One of the 9mm's greatest strengths is its compact size, allowing handguns to hold more rounds in double-stack magazines without becoming bulky or difficult to control. That combination of high capacity and mild recoil played a major role in its widespread adoption by police departments and militaries throughout the 1980s and 1990s. As hollow-point ammunition improved, the practical performance difference between the 9mm and larger handgun calibers became much smaller. In 2014, the FBI officially transitioned back to the 9mm after years of issuing the .40 Smith & Wesson, citing nearly identical terminal performance while benefiting from lower recoil, faster follow-up shots, and greater magazine capacity. By then, the cartridge had already become the dominant choice among American law enforcement, and its popularity continued to grow after the Beretta M9 entered U.S. military service in 1985. Affordable, easy to shoot, and highly effective, the 9mm Luger remains the benchmark for modern service pistols. The 45 ACP has a completely different origin story. It was born from the hard lessons of war. During the Philippine-American War, the U.S. Army found that its 38 long Colt revolvers often failed to stop determined attackers quickly enough. Those experiences led to the famous Thompson-LaGarde tests in 1904, which concluded that a .45 caliber projectile offered the level of stopping power the Army wanted. John Moses Browning answered the challenge by designing a rimless, straight-walled cartridge specifically for a new semi-automatic pistol. In 1911, the U.S. Army adopted both the cartridge and Browning's pistol, creating the legendary Colt M1911. Together, they would serve as America's standard military sidearm for the next 74 years. Standard 45 ACP ammunition launches a heavy 230-grain bullet at approximately 830 to 850 feet per second, producing between 350 and 400 foot-pounds of energy. Because that velocity stays comfortably below the speed of sound, the cartridge became a natural choice for suppressed handguns and specialized firearms like the World War II-era Delisle Commando carbine. Instead of relying on speed, the 45 ACP delivers its effectiveness through a large, heavy bullet that creates an impressive wound channel. Although the Beretta M9 officially replaced the M1911 in 1985, the cartridge itself never lost its following. More than a century after its introduction, the 45 ACP remains one of the most respected handgun calibers in America, with manufacturers such as Glock, Springfield Armory, and Smith & Wesson continuing to chamber modern pistols for it alongside the ever-popular 1911 platform. Next is the 380 ACP, also known as the 3N80 Auto, 9mm short or 9mm Kurtz. Designed by John Moses Browning in 1908 for the Colt Model 1908 Pocket Hammerless, this cartridge was built with concealed carry as its primary purpose. At a time when dedicated concealed carry holsters were rare, many people simply carried their handgun in a jacket or coat pocket. While the 9mm Luger and 45 ACP were designed as full-size service cartridges, the 3.80 ACP was created to deliver practical defensive performance in a much smaller package. A typical 380 load fires a 90 to 95 grain bullet at roughly 900 to 1,050 feet per second from a compact 3 to 4-inch barrel, generating around 170 to 220 foot-pounds of energy. The lighter recoil makes these pistols easier to control, especially in today's ultra-compact concealed carry handguns. The cartridge evolved from Browning's earlier 38 ACP, using a true rimless design that headspaces on the case mouth for improved reliability and accuracy. Thanks to major advances in modern hollow-point ammunition, today's 3N80 ACP performs far better than its early reputation suggested. It continues to rank among the most popular calibers for backup firearms and deep concealment carry throughout the United States. Then there's the .22 long rifle. No cartridge in history has been produced in greater numbers. Introduced in 1887 by J. Stevens Arms and Tool Company, the .22 long rifle combined the case of the earlier .22 long with a heavier bullet, creating a rimfire cartridge that immediately delivered better performance than its predecessors. A standard .22 long rifle load fires a 40-grain bullet at roughly 1,080 to 1,200 feet per second, generating only about 100 to 140 foot-pounds of energy. That's only a fraction of the power produced by even the lightest centerfire handgun cartridges, but that's exactly why the .22 LR has remained the world's favorite training and recreational round. Its low recoil, low cost, and easy-to-shoot nature have made it the standard choice for target shooting, introducing new shooters to firearms and hunting small game. Unlike every centerfire cartridge we've covered so far, the .22 long rifle uses a rimfire ignition system. Instead of striking a primer in the center of the cartridge, the firing pin crushes the rim of the thin brass case, where the priming compound is located. That simple design keeps manufacturing costs remarkably low, making .22 LR ammunition some of the most affordable on the market. Recoil is virtually non-existent, the report is mild, and even extended practice sessions are inexpensive. High-velocity and hypervelocity loads using lighter 30 to 33-grain bullets can exceed 1,600 feet per second, giving hunters flatter trajectories for squirrels, rabbits, and other small game. Despite more than a century of newer and more powerful cartridges entering the market, the .22 long rifle remains the best-selling cartridge in the world. And if you've ever learned to shoot, there's a good chance this was the very first rifle cartridge you ever fired. Next up are two cartridges that are often confused with one another, the 5.56 NATO and the .223 Remington. In the late 1950s, the U.S. military worked alongside Remington and Armalite engineer Eugene Stoner to develop a lightweight rifle and cartridge capable of delivering excellent performance while significantly reducing the weight carried by infantry compared to the larger 7.62 by 51mm NATO. The result was the .223 Remington, introduced in 1962. Firing a 55-grain bullet at approximately 3,250 feet per second from the newly developed AR-15, it offered high velocity, low recoil, and impressive accuracy. Just 2 years later, the U.S. Army adopted a select-fire version of the rifle as the M16. By 1980, NATO standardized an upgraded military version known as the 5.56 45mm NATO. Loaded to higher pressures and typically using a 62-grain steel core projectile, it leaves the muzzle at roughly 3,100 feet per second while producing about 1,325 foot-pounds of energy. Although the two cartridges share nearly identical external dimensions, they aren't completely interchangeable. Rifles chambered for 5.56 NATO are designed to safely fire both 5.56 and .223 Remington ammunition. However, rifles built specifically with a tighter .223 Remington chamber are generally intended to use commercial .223 loads unless the manufacturer states otherwise. Interestingly, some commercial .223 loads can produce slightly higher muzzle velocities depending on the barrel length and ammunition, while the heavier 5.56 NATO projectile often maintains better downrange performance and a flatter trajectory at extended distances. It's a debate that continues among competitive shooters, hunters, and AR-15 enthusiasts. Between the M16, the M4 carbine, and millions of civilian AR-15 rifles owned across the United States and around the world, this cartridge family has become one of the most influential and widely used rifle platforms ever created. The 7.62 by 39mm tells a very different story. Developed by Soviet engineers during the final years of World War II, it was finalized in 1944 as an intermediate cartridge that offered substantially more power than a pistol round while remaining much easier to control than traditional full-power rifle cartridges like the 7.62 54R. It first entered service in the SKS carbine before becoming permanently associated with Mikhail Kalashnikov's legendary AK-47, officially adopted by the Soviet military in the late 1940s. A standard 123-grain load leaves the muzzle at around 2,350 feet per second, producing approximately 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. That's more than enough power for medium-sized game like white-tailed deer within reasonable hunting distances. One of the cartridge's defining characteristics is its aggressively tapered case. That shape was intentionally engineered to maximize feeding reliability under harsh battlefield conditions, including mud, sand, dirt, and minimal maintenance. It's also why AK magazines have their distinctive curved profile compared to the straighter magazines found on most 5.56 NATO rifles. Most AK pattern rifles are effective out to roughly 300 yards. While that falls short of the flatter shooting 5.56 NATO, Soviet designers considered it a worthwhile trade-off in exchange for exceptional reliability and controllability during automatic fire. Combined with the enormous number of Kalashnikov pattern rifles produced in countries around the world, the 7.62 by 39mm has become one of the most widely distributed military rifle cartridges in history. Even today, decades after the Cold War, it remains the signature caliber of the AK-47 family and continues to see widespread use for military service, hunting, and civilian shooting. The 308 Winchester has an unusual history because it reached civilian shooters before it became a military standard. Winchester introduced it commercially in 1952, 2 years before NATO officially adopted the nearly identical 7.62 by 51mm cartridge in 1954. Both trace their lineage back to a shortened version of the legendary 5.56 Springfield, delivering nearly the same performance from a more compact cartridge. The 308 Winchester was designed to deliver nearly the same power as the legendary 5.56 Springfield, while fitting into a shorter, lighter rifle action. A typical 150-grain hunting load leaves the muzzle at approximately 2,800 feet per second and produces around 2,600 foot-pounds of energy. That's more than enough performance for white-tailed deer, feral hogs, elk, and even black bear at normal hunting distances across North America. Its military counterpart, the 7.62 by 51mm NATO, became the standard chambering for generations of American sniper rifles, including the M24 and the Marine Corps' M40. It earned its reputation through exceptional accuracy, dependable consistency, and recoil that remains manageable compared to larger Magnum cartridges. Although newer long-range cartridges, like the 6.5 Creedmoor, have become increasingly popular thanks to their flatter trajectories and superior ballistic coefficients, the 308 Winchester continues to be one of the most versatile rifle cartridges ever developed. Whether it's chambered in a bolt-action hunting rifle, an AR-10 platform, or a precision sniper system, the 308 has proven itself across virtually every shooting discipline for more than half a century. Finally, we have the 12-gauge shotgun. Unlike every other round we've covered, the 12-gauge isn't measured by caliber at all. Instead, it's based on an old measurement system called air gauge. The number refers to how many perfectly round lead balls, each matching the bore diameter, can be cast from 1 pound of lead. In the case of a 12-gauge, it takes exactly 12 of those lead balls to make up a pound. The system may date back hundreds of years, but the 12-gauge remains the most popular shotgun chambering in the world because of its incredible versatility. Everything depends on the type of shell being fired. A standard double-aught buckshot load typically contains 8 or 9 .33 caliber pellets traveling between 1,050 and 1,325 feet per second. At close range, those pellets strike almost simultaneously, delivering tremendous stopping power that has made buckshot a long-time favorite for defensive use. A 1-ounce rifled slug transforms the shotgun into something entirely different. Traveling at roughly 1,050 to 1,800 feet per second, it produces well over 200 foot-pounds of energy, comparable to, and sometimes exceeding, many center-fire rifle cartridges at close range. Unlike streamlined rifle bullets, however, slugs lose velocity much more quickly as the distance increases. Birdshot is designed for a completely different purpose. Instead of relying on a few large projectiles, it sends hundreds of small pellets downrange in a wide, dense pattern, making it ideal for upland birds, waterfowl, clay target sports, and other fast-moving targets. When hunting ducks and geese in the United States, federal law requires the use of non-toxic shot, such as steel or bismuth, instead of traditional lead. The regulation was introduced to prevent waterfowl from swallowing spent lead pellets left behind in wetlands, dramatically reducing cases of lead poisoning among migratory birds. That unmatched adaptability is exactly why the 12-gauge has remained the king of shotguns for generations. Simply changing the shell allows the same firearm to serve as an effective home defense weapon, a capable big-game hunting tool, or a competition shotgun. For maximum close-range stopping power, buckshot is hard to beat. When you need the power and precision of a single heavy projectile, slugs take over. And when the target is flying, birdshot remains the clear choice.